It was Christmas Eve again, snow falling softly over the city, lights twinkling in every window, and the sound of laughter echoing through the streets. But high above it all, in a glass tower that overlooked the entire skyline, one man sat alone by a crackling fire. Ethan Cole, the youngest self-made CEO in the city, stared at the empty chair across from him, the same chair he'd left untouched for 10 years. Every Christmas, Ethan waited. He didn't even know what for anymore. Maybe forgiveness. Maybe a sign. Or maybe just someone to remind him he wasn't as cold and alone as his boardroom thought he was. Years ago, that chair belonged to his little sister, Lily. She used to sit there every Christmas Eve, wrapping presents for the orphanage down the street. But one snowy night, an accident took her life, and Ethan never celebrated Christmas again. Until that night. As the clock struck 8, Ethan poured himself a glass of whiskey and sighed. Another year, he muttered. Another. Then came the knock. A soft, hesitant knock at the door of his massive penthouse. He frowned. No one ever visited him on Christmas. He lived far above the busy streets, his address known only to a few close contacts. Cautiously, he opened the door. Standing there was a woman and a little girl, both shivering in the cold. The woman's coat was torn, her shoes soaked from the snow. The little girl clutched a small, lopsided box wrapped in red paper. "I'm sorry to bother you, sir," the woman began, her voice trembling. "We've been trying to deliver this to the right address all day. It was left at the charity center, and your name was on it, Ethan Cole." Ethan stared at her in disbelief. "That's my name, yes. But I haven't donated anything this year." The girl smiled shyly. "Mom says it's from an angel." He hesitated, then stepped aside. "Come in before you freeze." The warmth of the fireplace filled the room as they entered. The woman introduced herself as Grace, and her daughter, Emily. They'd recently lost their home after Grace's husband passed away, and had been staying at a shelter for a few weeks. Grace explained that while volunteering at the orphanage, they found a dusty old box labeled, "To Ethan Cole, for Christmas Eve." Ethan's heart skipped. That was his sister's handwriting. With trembling hands, he opened the box. Inside was a small, hand-carved wooden angel. It was something Lily used to make for the children every Christmas. There was also a folded note, yellowed and delicate. He opened it slowly. "Ethan, if you ever stop believing in Christmas, give this angel to someone who needs it more than you. Love always, Lily." Ethan's eyes filled with tears for the first time in years. Grace and Emily sat quietly, unsure what to say. Then Emily looked at him with wide eyes. "Mr. Cole, can I put the angel on your tree?" He almost laughed, a sad, broken laugh. "I don't have one." Emily gasped. "No tree? That's the saddest thing ever." Grace scolded softly, but Ethan smiled through his tears. "No, she's right." That night, the three of them went out into the snowy streets and bought a small Christmas tree from a corner vendor. It was crooked, the branches uneven, but to Ethan, it was perfect. They decorated it together, using paper stars and ribbons Emily had made by hand. As they worked, Ethan found himself laughing again, real laughter, the kind that echoed like music in the quiet room. Grace watched him, a smile touching her tired face. When the lights flickered on, Ethan looked around his penthouse. For the first time in years, it didn't feel empty. Over hot chocolate and cookies, Grace told him how hard life had been, how she'd lost her husband, her home, her hope. Ethan listened silently, realizing how much he'd hidden behind his wealth. "You know," Grace said softly, "sometimes we wait for miracles, but sometimes, we're the ones meant to bring them." Her words struck deep. That night, Ethan offered Grace a job at his company's community outreach department. He didn't do it out of pity, but because he saw strength in her, courage he had long forgotten in himself. Weeks passed. Grace started working with Ethan's team, rebuilding her life. Emily became like a burst of sunlight in his dark office, drawing doodles on sticky notes and calling him Uncle Ethan. As months turned into a year, the three of them built something beautiful, a bond that healed what grief had once broken. Ethan helped renovate the orphanage his sister once loved, naming it Lily's house. And every Christmas after that, Grace and Emily came to his penthouse, not as guests, but as family. They would hang the wooden angel on the tree first, then share stories and laughter until midnight. One snowy Christmas Eve, years later, Emily, now a teenager, handed him a new wooden angel. "I made this one for you," she said with a grin. "So you'll never be alone again." Ethan smiled, his eyes glistening. "I never will be." Outside, the city sparkled with lights, but inside that once empty penthouse, love glowed brighter than ever before.